This is what you get when the basketball team sucks for three straight games. 3 straight games, really. When the basketball team sucks for 3 straight games, you get the IMS Radio B team. That's what happens. That's what happens. Paul can't be bothered to be here.
You went to the bullpen. This was it.
He said he wanted to watch the football playoff game, and I kept telling him it was not tonight. It's tomorrow night. He didn't. He wouldn't listen. So he cared more about that than the show. So
I don't know who you're talking about with this Paul guy. So
yeah,
no clue.
Paul's not with us. We have our fill-in extraordinaire, our non-revs reporter, Wheels, with us tonight. So as you guys know, whenever this happens, it's always actually an improvement for the show. So stick around. It's going to be good. It's going to be the best. You know what? I need to – oh, shoot. Hang on. Don't make any noises. I need to – okay, there we go. I'm trying to see the chat here. We do have a couple of comments already. Spontaneous live show? No, this is not spontaneous, Mr. Popo. Lawrence, you should do the show inside that bubble chair. Yeah. Regularly there are jokes about the bubble chairs. I've already explained them. I'm not going to do it again. They are what they are. Okay.
Let's just hope that's the only bubble we're talking about in a month from now. Boom, boom. That's terrible. I know.
I didn't think so, man. I thought I don't understand why they're losing. It has sucked the life out of me. At the beginning of the year, I'm like, hey, you got a team again. You got exciting players. Derek Queen, let's go. And now it just feels like, I don't know.
I think they play down. I think they play to the level of their opponent.
And they hadn't done that. Oh, they were boat racing teams. They won by 70 and 50 and 40 and 30 against Ohio State. Like they were.
Ohio State was the only legit team that they won by that much against. The rest was like Southwest Community College for.
But when he said they were playing down, they weren't playing down until the UMES right before these last 2 games. It was the first time they played down.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Although Washington. They should have beat Washington, but that's unusual circumstance. Not to make excuses for them, but for first time going on the road that far of a trip, I mean, it takes a toll on you. That's why home teams get, extra 3 or 4 points on the point spread. I think that could be somewhat of a self-inflicted wound just from not scheduling more road games early on. That early schedule. I haven't looked in the past few days, but as of, I think 2 days ago, their non-conference schedule was dead last in the country on KenPom, 364th, I think, out of every single school they had to sign. And so, if people are questioning that, obviously, first, obviously, it wasn't that great to watch when, 2 out of 3 games were them just pounding some overmatched opponent, but also, you don't kind of get your sea legs.
I'm afraid to watch against UCLA.
They're going to beat UCLA. My bold prediction is they'll win their home games and they'll lose their road games. I mean, that just seems to be kind of what's been happening the last couple of years is when they get opponents coming into Xfinity, they figure out ways to grind out wins. And then they go on the road and they drop games at Northwestern. Maybe they'll go to Champaign-Urbana because it seems like Brad Underwood just can't beat Maryland.
Even with Turge, it was like that. Like they'd lose some games, but you knew after a couple losses coming home, even against one of the top teams, but you knew that there was an 80% chance they were winning it, just because Xfinity is a big. It's got to be. It'd be interesting to see statistics, but it's got to be a top 10 or so home court, top 20 home court advantage in the country, results-wise. So it feels like this is one of those automatic home wins, but if it's not, that's big trouble. And,
things spiral, right? If they can't, because with their next 4, they got 3 home games and then the road game at Northwestern, and for a typical Maryland fan, you think that's 4 wins incoming. God, you drop any of these home games, then you got to wonder how much longer they can handle it before they start to really unravel.
Yeah, when you struggle like this on the road, you have to win basically every home game. I mean, Kevin Willard is, I think the most recent number is 4-19 on the road in Big Ten games. First year, they had that really good, at least good in context in terms of they didn't have much expectations that first year. They had that really good year, despite going 1-9 on the road in the Big Ten that year. They still got to the tournament and won a game, but it's not really sustainable even with the home court advantage. So I don't know what it is about the road, but it has not been kind to them. I guess if you're looking for the silver lining, they've played 3 out of their 4 games away from home, so you have more home games the rest of the way.
You got leads in all of those games too, and you can't hold the leads.
Every game they let it halftime.
Yeah, and Washington's not good. Osobor, okay, that guy's really good, and they got a couple other. Zoom is okay, right? But they're not good. Maryland is so much more talent. How do you lose? How do you lose that? It's very deflating.
Well, it's the both the Oregon and UW games. The UW game, one of their best outside shooters had been on a terrible cold streak and hits two key, 3-pointers to really kind of stop the game from getting away from UW early. And then on the road, that kid at Oregon,
Shell's bad.
Yeah, he came into the game shooting in the 20s or something from 3 and 4 for 4 in the first half.
Is that the center? The center?
No, the shooting guard, right, Jeff?
The center was making ridiculous shots too. Like, what is going on?
Oregon's a really talented team.
Yeah,
and they were coming off. You know how it is. Teams refocus after a bad loss. They had lost to Illinois by 32. Actually, we have an article up on the site that Ben Dixon wrote that about kind of this trend Maryland's had. Every big game almost, or most of their big games, the team that they're playing has gotten hammered the game before. So, Mick Cronin went off last night about UCLA's loss. They lost it by 19 at home against Michigan. So he went off, called his players soft and entitled and all these things. So they're going to come in there, ready to go.
Everybody has their awful game before Maryland, so then they come in ready for blood.
But that UW game, they had lost to Seattle University the game before, right? They had lost to Seattle U in 60 years, and that was a real bad game to drop before coming in.
Yeah, I'm not going to give them an excuse for that one based on Washington losing. That's just Washington is not that good and they lost. But the other ones, Purdue lost right before they played. Maryland, Oregon lost by 30. Before that, I'm trying to remember. Purdue.
Marquette lost one right before. I think Marquette had lost one right before too, right?
Yeah. So they keep catching these. But that just is what it is. You got to win games. The Washington game was just pretty much 99% because your best 2 players both no-showed. For the first time all season, Derek Queen had a bad game, a really bad game, and Jacoby Gillespie scored 1 point.
What did you make of Jimmy Patso's comments? I know you had an article up there about him showing up on a radio show. What did you make of his comments?
He thought the players weren't really dialed in. They overlooked Washington. But Jimmy's a great guy, but he's also close with Willard and the coaches. So someone close to the program like that, actually, who works a little bit with the program, he's not going to bash the coach necessarily. I don't think he was at the Oregon game, but either way, this is the problem when you schedule like that. Not only are you not ready, do you not have a little bit of experience, some miles under your belt from traveling. You also don't have that many shots for valuable wins. They only had a few shots. They fell short. Marquette obviously being the biggest one. And now, you got to win, 11 games. I don't know, Larry, you're the math guy, 11 games, 10 games at least. Right now, obviously, their analytics are strong. They're still top 25 somehow.
The analytics are so good that if you're just talking about getting into the tournament, they might be able to get in with 1 or even 2 games less than normal because the analytics are so good. So, 10-10 in the Big Ten, they're probably on the good side of the bubble, I would say.
Yeah, I feel like the analytics this year are, I don't know if people tweaked their formulas, especially Ken Palm, because he had Maryland at 24 or whatever it was after Oregon. And I think West Virginia was 30th with like 2 top 10 wins. So I don't know if he's adjusting more for like margin of victory, margin of victory against bad teams. I feel like that's a silly thing to really value.
No, his formula is how good is your offense? He's got a formula that says how good is your offense? Kind of like a points per possession almost kind of thing. How good is your defense? The opposite of that. And then you take the offense number, you subtract the defense number from it, and that's your score. That's it.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with the rest of it. So
I think in now that we are fully in an era of the super conferences, you get 10-10, you get to 10-10 in any of these big, huge conferences, and you'd have to have some really, really, really bad losses to probably not be on the right side of the bubble come March, just because.
I'd argue Washington's a pretty bad loss.
Well, what were they, 75?
The only one. Yeah, 77, I think, at the time.
Yeah, something like that. So, but I mean, if you're going to drop a plus 100 game, for a true bad loss, in these super conferences, you get to 500 in them. Better chance than not, I bet, of being on the plus side, because you just have so many opportunities for quad 1 type wins. Like, you just have so many in the super conferences now. So hard to not make it if you can get to 500. That's my gut on it.
And if they don't make it, Kevin Willard on the hot seat. How hot is that seat if he doesn't make it?
I don't know. I mean, it's people ask those things about him and Loxley, but you always have to look back at the contracts, right? These guys have massive deals for 5-6 years, and it's 90% guaranteed.
Willard, though.
90% guaranteed. So you'd be looking at 12 or so. I haven't looked at it recently. A lot of millions of dollars. So, hot seat is kind of a vague term. A lot of times it means you're going to get fired if that happens, but then a lot of times it's just the fans are going to despise you, and it's going to look unlikely that you're going to last there very long. I would say it would be the second one probably if they didn't make it. I think they'll make it, but I don't think anyone's going to be like having a parade about that. Maryland fans have waited so long for like at least, I'm not even saying like number 1 seed, Final Four, at least a 5 seed, 5 seed, go in there, win, get to the Sweet 16. That's not that crazy of a thing, but that just, that's what people are hungry for. So I don't think getting there, is going to do. It's obviously avoids being a total disaster, but it's,
They did have the 1 year with Melo. I think it was it their 3rd year when it was Melo, Suleiman, Layman, Stone.
2016. Yeah.
Yeah. And they made the Sweet 16 because they got lucky because the 4 seed.
But that also seemed to be the year that when Turgeon that was a team that made it to number 1, I think, at a certain point. Didn't they make it to the top of the polls that year?
Maryland has famously never been number 1
until the end
they
of
were
the season.
Top 5.
Yeah, that was
maybe even 2 or 3.
Yeah, Jake Layman and Carter and Suleiman and Mello. It was that team, and everyone thought, hey, Elite 8, Final Four, and when that team flamed out, it seemed like the fans really just jumped off of believing that Turgeon was the guy. You got to wonder if it's kind of similar vibes this year, that this looks to be like a team that has, on paper at least, they're deep. They seem to have fixed their 3-point shooting problems. And, you got to wonder if Coach Willard can't get them to the Sweet 16, if it becomes kind of a similar situation where the fans just feel like they're just stuck in a rut.
I think a lot of people are already making the comparison between Willard and Turgeon.
Oh yeah,
So,
I've seen a lot of bald Turgeon posted on the site.
Man, all these bald guys catching strays, man.
You're bald tall.
Mr. Popo says that they were number 2 for a couple of weeks that season, and then they lost to UNC in the ACC Big Ten ACC Challenge after that. So that's probably
the only
right.
That's their only Sweet 16 team in the last 20 years.
It's crazy.
Yeah,
it's hard. I mean,
it's crazy.
Yeah. So maybe that's why it's hard to you get a couple of losses, and that it's the Maryland syndrome, right? You're just like, here it comes again.
Yeah, I don't blame people for being like that. Sometimes, I mean, you don't want them to be trolls or like, the people who just constantly are negative about anything, even when it's good news. But I don't blame them for being a little beaten down. 20 years, when even that's, it's not like that was like a glorious, they went to the Sweet 16 and got beaten soundly by Kansas.
Yeah. Mr. Popo is saying the 2010 team did also. They did not make the Sweet 16. They almost did. That was the shot the one we don't want to talk about, right?
Yep. That was Corey Lucius.
Oh, you had to say it, Jeff.
You said it.
Speaking of that time in Maryland sports, I'm trying to see. I still have not heard from Shawn Petty in the last hour, so I'm hoping he will be joining us shortly. But
yeah, Shawn Petty, our guest, is.
I mean, I'm sure there's a good chance he's got like 6 other podcasts tonight that begging him to come on. So
yeah, he was famously the linebacker that played quarterback for Maryland in 2012, when 4 other quarterbacks had season-ending injuries, and he came in, and they were actually pretty good that year, if I remember correctly. Not pretty good, but I think they were going to a bowl game probably. They had beaten, I think, Virginia and Wake Forest. They were 4-2. They had lost to West Virginia, but they had winnable ACC games, and they almost still won some.
I looked at his stats. I mean, he had, because I remembered him performing better than you'd expect given the situation. He had, I think, either 6 or 7 touchdowns and 2 picks in the games he played in, which is pretty amazing.
A true freshman as well. Is
true
the
freshman linebacker.
I know.
Well, what's crazy is, that's 12 seasons ago, right? And yet there is not a season that goes by for Maryland football where there is a part of the fan base that will be like, what is Shawn Petty going to be? Our quarterback. Like, it happens every year. It's like we're all so still traumatized from having 4 quarterbacks, get hurt and having to put a freshman linebacker under center. It's like it lives with us.
Name the 4 quarterbacks who got injured.
C.J. Brown.
C.J. Brown was one of them, right?
Perry Fisher. Caleb Rowe.
No, Perry Hills.
Perry Hills, sorry. Perry Hills. And, oh, God, he was a backup running quarterback, and he never started.
Oh, no. He was the kid was he the Liz Frank injury on his foot?
Yep.
Oh, my God, what was that kid's name? He seemed to be he seemed to have a little juice to him. Oh, my God, what was that guy's name? I can't believe I remembered his injury, but I can't remember his name.
Was it? Devin Burns.
Yes.
There you go.
Damn, Larry, you're good.
That was a good pull.
Man, Larry.
Athletic kid from Georgia. Looks like he had. I don't remember where he finished up. He had a little bit of talent.
He was a wide receiver, didn't he? When he left, didn't he just play wide receiver after he left?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I remember when he got in, it was like, oh man, he brings a different dynamic, and then gets his foot stepped on or something, and that's
This is funny. Mr. Popo said, Larry, check the chat. You guys understand that you hear us like 20 seconds after the chat comes in, right? So even if that and Wes, our buddy Wes Brown did post that, but I said it before he posted it. But you guys hear it.
I believe you, Larry, but there's many times where I've suspected Paul of cheating.
Like when we have trivia contests and stuff. Yeah, he definitely cheats. He's a cheater. What a
Paul
cheater.
who? I have no idea who this Paul guy is.
Yeah.
That you keep referencing.
Yeah, he's a cheater.
I'm gonna throw a 1980s movie reference at you. I'm gonna be like the father. I'm gonna be like Gary's father in Weird Science, and I'm gonna be like, "Who is this Paul guy you're talking about?" And I wish you'd stop saying his name. And you guys are like, "Weird Science, what is that?" Ugh.
You dated yourself.
Petty is stuck late at work. Can we do this another night? He said. Oh my God. Well, I guess that's, when you get people who haven't probably been in an interview kind of situation in many years,
all right.
They're not.
Here's what we're going to do. I have my fill in the blank for Shawn Petty. All right. You guys are going to answer it as if you're Shawn Petty. Here we go. We're ad-libbing now. We're just having some fun. Here we go. All right. Number 1, your best position besides linebacker or quarterback was?
Defensive end. Sorry. You get the next one, Jeff.
All right. Your favorite memory of College Park besides football is?
Hanging out with Randy Edsall at the bars.
What a good segue. The best word to describe Randy Edsall is, and the reason I asked this because when we had Stefan Diggs on the show, I asked Stefan Diggs this one, and Stefan Diggs said, stern. So I was going to ask him that.
No, he hates Edsall.
Yeah. So the best word to describe Randy Edsall is?
You want this one, Jeff?
No, you can take that one.
I mean, I don't think I could get one word because I want to say something like fine young man. Oh, I got a good one. Do-rag.
All right, there you go. All right. The best place to eat in College Park is? Jeff, that's an easy one. Go ahead.
Marathon Deli.
Really? Okay.
I mean, I think all the kids
Litos?
I mean, I was trying to think of somewhere like a red local, but it's all
Litos.
It's all chains.
No. Well, that's the original Litos. You got Looney's. You
not
got
there anymore. The original's not there.
You got is Cluck You still there?
No,
I don't even know. It's gone. Okay.
That's what I'm saying.
All right.
It's all Noodles and Company, and all the chains.
The last one I had for him, when Maryland and Marshall play, you root for, because he transferred to Marshall his last 2 years. So I was hoping he'd say either way would have been an interesting answer.
That is a good question. I don't know. Now I need to know what he would say. It's going to keep me up tonight.
Text him
and find out. Yeah.
Yeah. Text him and ask him.
But if you had to put yourself in his mind, Jeff, come on, give it a shot.
I bet he says Maryland.
I think he'd say Maryland because we're a Maryland podcast, but he left there and actually played more at Marshall. So that would probably be anybody's true feeling.
So I don't remember after he didn't leave after his first year. And
no, he left after 2 years.
Yeah. Did he start his sophomore year? Did he start getting more play at linebacker, or was he?
He played a little bit.
A little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. The other thing I was going to say was I have poured through Maryland football history, the statistics and everything, as you know, from doing the shows with Ralph. I believe he is the only player ever to both throw a touchdown pass and sack a quarterback.
Oh, he's got to be.
It's a very rare combination.
Yeah, I watched the highlights earlier, just trying to get refreshed on it because it's been so long. And he had a few nice ones. He had to Diggs. I mean, he threw a couple bombs to Diggs. So I thought that would be cool, to see that from his perspective. But
we need to get the bumper. So can you do me a favor and say this is Shawn Petty and you're listening to IMS Radio?
This is Shawn Petty and you're listening to IRS Radio.
All right. We got stood up by Shawn Petty.
A new low.
Is this as bad as
I mean, you got your third string step in, for Paul. You got stood up by your fourth string quarterback.
We're following up on that Maryland's West Coast road trip pretty nicely.
Only a show only the diehards could love. Yeah. So all right, we got stood up by Shawn Petty. I could have probably had Walt.
Larry, is that going to be the name when you post this? When this gets posted on?
Hold on, he's coming. I think he's coming on.
Oh no! Now,
man.
All right, now I'm going to ask him all the questions again.
Now we're all going to be laughing we're going to be waiting every time on the questions, see if we got it right.
Yeah, we'll see if we got it right. Yeah. Yeah.
I know, Jeff, we're going to be like, Mike, got it. He's going to be like, what just happened here?
Yeah. Yeah. So is he coming right now, or?
He said he'll join at 8.
Join at 8. That's 4 minutes from now. So between then and now, how about some recruiting, Jeff? What do you got?
Basketball's, well, you want to just do one? I guess we'll just talk football. Transfer portal, they've added 9 players so far.
Okay.
Number 37 transfer class in the country, so decent, but probably not as high as you would like to be. It's unfinished product, though. You know, they're going to add a lot more transfers in that spring window. You know, they potentially addressed the quarterback need with the kid Justin Martin from UCLA, as everybody knows, former 4-star. I think we've talked about him on the podcast before.
I don't think so.
Oh, we haven't. Okay, so he was a 4-star from Inglewood. Inglewood always up to no good. If you know, Larry doesn't know. There's no chance Larry knows what that is. But
is that NWA?
Close.
Damn.
Very close. That's Dr. Dre.
So close. Well, he's in NWA, wasn't he?
It was later in his career,
but still.
Solo.
All right.
I'll give you a half point.
Half point.
Let's see. Who else do I like in there? The big one is Jaleel Farouk, obviously, transfer from Oklahoma, receiver. They desperately need receivers after losing their top 2 guys. There's not much of anything proven there on the depth chart, so that's a really big one. Offensive line, Javen James, kid from Akron that a lot of good programs wanted. They were able to bring him in. Obviously, you need more guys on the offensive line, given how much it struggled this past season. And then the most recent one was D.D. Holmes from Florida State, defensive end from Tony's stomping grounds over there at Gonzaga. Was a 4-star composite recruit. You know, they were really close. I thought they'd get him for a while last year. So once he jumped in the portal, I had pretty good feeling that they were going to have a really good chance, and they got him. So that's big. If assuming he can live up to the billing, because they lost a ton on the defensive line. And then some other guys. One guy I really like is kid Dante Joyner from Arkansas State, safety. His PFF numbers were really good last year. I think he's a good get. And then the other corner, Jamari Glasker from Wake Forest. I think he's got a chance to be significantly better than the guys he's replacing.
Well, I'll tell you this. I can do some easy E for you guys. I'm not going to do it live, but I do this and everyone freaking loves it.
You're going to do Boys in the Hood, aren't you?
No, it's not that. It's got so many beepable words. I cannot do it. It's worse than AJ Francis's songs.
I mean, it's literally in the group's name. So, yeah, it's not surprising that.
Not that one, but it's got every other. It's called the grand finale. It's called the grand finale. All right, here comes Mr. Shawn Petty. We're going to add him in. Shawn Petty.
How you doing? Good. How you doing?
We're good. We thought you were going to stand us up for a second there.
Yeah.
Worried about that.
I'm over here trying to get some work done. That's all. But yeah, I'm good. I'm sorry I came in. I'm in the car.
No, we appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, we had 3 other guests lined up, but they all had ACL injuries, so you had to come to
I had to fill in. Look, I'm used to it.
You had to fill in. How's everything going? I don't think people know much about your life since I know we know you went to Marshall, for 2 years. But what's your life been like since then?
I mean, I've just been, transitioning into, just being a regular human, just working, trying to make money and pay bills. That's all. Nothing crazy going on. After college, I did try to pursue football a little bit, just had tryouts, but I had a lot of injuries towards my last year and at Marshall, my last 2 years at Marshall. Ever since that sit-out year, I kind of couldn't get away from some injuries. So after I stopped, pursuing, I just, got into the work life, trying to just get ready to be an adult, I guess.
Shawn, how many times do you meet over the years since you left? Do you meet a Maryland fan who's like, "Oh, you're the guy who took over at quarterback"?
It doesn't happen too often. I moved down. I'm down in Miami now, so
Okay.
it'll happen. It'll happen every once in a while when I'm home in Maryland. People will come up and they remember me from back then. But a lot of it doesn't happen much. I'm down here in Miami, so they don't know too much about Maryland history down here.
You still get
brag
brought
though.
up.
You got to brag to people about throwing touchdowns to Diggs, right?
I
Brag.
don't bring it up too much, but when people bring them up, I tell them I used to play with them. I played against them in high school too, so yeah, just.
You still get brought up on TV on games.
I've seen. I saw it one time.
During Maryland games, that you'll still get mentioned about.
Yeah, somebody sent me a clip a couple of years ago. I think they had a couple of quarterbacks go down. But it was, it wasn't to the extent of what happened with us. But I saw a clip where they brought it up a few years ago. But yeah, I haven't seen it brought up too much.
So, Shawn, I'm gonna read this for you from 2012. C.J. Brown injured before the opening game, lost for the season. Perry Hills. Jeff, turn your phone off. Perry Hills started first 6 games before suffering a season-ending injury against NC State. Caleb Rowe appeared against NC State and started against Boston College before suffering season-ending injury in that game. Devin Burns appeared against Virginia and NC State before suffering a season-ending injury in that game. Shawn Petty, linebacker, started Final 4 games. So you're watching all this happen. At what point are you like, I might actually play? Like, when did they start telling you, hey, get ready?
The week, I believe it was after the NC State game, when because I believe Devin went down first. So they brought me over to quarterback after that week. The Boston College week was my first week at practicing anything at quarterback. Still at that point, I'm just like, okay, I'm just getting some practice reps. I'll never get in. Caleb's good. He's not going to go down. So I'm practicing that week. Saturday comes, we play Boston College. Caleb finishes the game. We go into Sunday. Nobody knows that he's hurt yet, though. So the next day, he's like, I believe he was throwing up and stuff, and come to find out, he tore his ACL as well. I think it was a partial tear or something. So it's me, and there was Brian McMahon. He was a tight end that was practicing at quarterback, and he hesitated when they asked him, and I said, I'll play. So at that point, it was time to go. And I was ready to go. I wanted to play football. I had been sitting out. I was on scout team. I was just, I had never been sitting on the bench my whole life. So I was just ready to get out there and play football. And then, it was at the time, it was probably so crazy at the time, but in my mind, it didn't seem too crazy. So I was kind of calm with the situation. But yeah, it was a crazy time when I look back at it, though.
What was Edsel like during that? Was he like, did he have high expectations of you to go out there and like you come back to the sideline, he's like screaming at you for not making the right read?
They were Loxley really was the one who was yelling. So me and Loxley got real close, of course, during that time because I had to come before practice, come in the morning, after practice, come back in, and I had like Ricardo Young would help me with plays, CJ would help me with the plays, So it was from morning before the sun come up, and then I leave after it's nighttime. So it was long days. But Edsel was very supportive. He didn't, he was hard on me for sure. But I don't know how high his expectations were. But he didn't make it seem like we were coming into the week to lose. We were, we had expectations to win every single week that we went to go play.
Did he tell you played like a fine young man?
So that Georgia Tech game, I threw the touchdown at the end of the game, so it kind of put a little hope that we can have some hope that something can keep getting better. But he said he was proud of me. He was happy for me. And they weren't too hard on me after the games. Maybe during the games they would yell at me a lot, but after the games they would be there to support me and tell me that we get ready for the next week.
So coming up through high school, were you, as you were getting recruited, part of the reason why you'd played you'd played some quarterback, right, when you were in high school. But when you were getting recruited and all that, what were you thinking? Take yourself back to that time. What were you thinking? Like, going to be a linebacker?
So at the time, even another funny story, the day I got offered from Maryland, I went to the camp thinking that I was going to do quarterback, and I'm walking around with the quarterbacks, and Coach Hall at the time, I guess I don't know who he told or if he came and told me, but he was like, yeah, man, we want you going with the linebackers. Because I didn't play a lot. I played quarterback. I didn't play a lot of linebacker, but, I was an athlete. So I played outside linebacker in high school. And funny, I went out there. I had about 3 one-hand interceptions and ended up getting the offer. So that was my whole life. I did intend to be a quarterback. But I went out there. I started working at linebacker, especially after I realized that I was getting recruited as a linebacker just based off my size and, just how I was moving and everything. So, yeah, I kind of shifted once Maryland showed me they were interested in me at linebacker. I kind of shifted my mind into, okay, I'll be a college linebacker. So that was kind of when I transitioned to knowing I would be a linebacker instead of a quarterback.
And then that next year, did you go to Hull and be like, who's not a quarterback? Boy, like,
Nah, I never did it. He was a part of the whole, trying to help me get transitioned into that as well. So
where else were you considering when you were coming out? You were at Eleanor Roosevelt, right? You came out of Roosevelt. Where else were you looking at?
I only had a couple of offers. So my dad was the head coach or the defensive coordinator at Howard. I had NC State come through, and then I had just interest, but I committed to Maryland before my senior year, so I didn't really have too much traction after that. But I had a few other offers, but a lot of D1. I had D1AA interest at quarterback. But yeah, for the most part, just like NC State, Maryland at the time. That was it, really.
You mentioned that Loxley.
Mm-hmm.
How much contact do you still have with the program? You still involved? Because I think people really love it when the ex-players come back and they're still involved, and you have a program feel, not just people shuffling through.
Yeah, definitely. So we got a lot of DC people that are on the staff. Azar was somebody that I've known since I was a kid as well. But me and Loxley, I'll DM him every once in a while. I've been up to spring practice. My plan, I planned to make it to a game this past year, but with my schedule, I wasn't able to make it. But they welcome me anytime I come. They show me around. I got full access to go around, do whatever I want. So they're really good with making sure that as alum, and we have Will Likely on the staff now. So they're really good with bringing people back and making sure you feel good when you come back. Because every time I've been up there, I felt like I was back at home, even though I transferred my last 2 years. They still make me. I still feel like that's still my Maryland is my hometown really, and I feel good anytime I go up there to a school.
Have you told Locks to keep you in mind next time the quarterback's coach job is open?
Look, he's brought it up. We talked about it a couple times. Yeah, so.
All right, Shawn, we end every interview by playing a game called Fill in the Blank. I'm going to ask you 5 rapid-fire questions. You say the first thing that comes to your mind, okay?
All right, let's go.
Your best position besides linebacker or quarterback was?
Tight end.
Your favorite memory of College Park besides football is?
My teammates, chilling with my teammates.
Right. So this one I asked, we had Stefan Diggs on the show. I asked him, I'm going to get your response to this too. The best word to describe Randy Edsall is?
Hard worker.
Okay. Stefan said, stern.
Okay, yeah, that's a good one. That's a better one. Yeah. But
all right. Yes. Number 4, the best place to eat in College Park is?
Oh my gosh, I forgot the name. But I'll say we have Alito's in College Park.
There you go. Yep. There we go. And last one, when Maryland and Marshall play, you root for?
Maryland. You can't do that to me. Maryland. We go Maryland.
I did it. We're gonna send this video to our Marshall affiliate.
Yeah, the Marshall podcast is never gonna have you on.
Oh man, look, y'all can't do me like that, man. That's funny.
Hey, Shawn, we asked one more thing if everybody comes on the show. Could you do us a favor and say, this is Shawn Petty, and you're listening to IMS Radio.
This is Shawn Petty, and you're listening to IMS Radio.
Hey, Shawn, thank you so much. It's been great reminiscing with you. We all still love to talk about that season and the way you stepped in.
Crazy season, man.
You're a folk hero among the Terps fans. So Thank you for joining us, Shawn.
I appreciate you guys for having me.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Shawn.
Y'all have a good night.
Bye,
You
Shawn.
too. But
All right. Have a good one.
there he is.
Good sense
Shawn
of humor, man. What a good sense
like
of
him.
humor.
Yeah. Yeah, he's a nice guy.
He didn't want to shit on Edsel, though.
No.
He thought about it. You could tell. I mean, he was like, "Oh man."
He laughed. He did the laugh right off the bat, and then I called the Litos.
You did.
You did, actually. Yeah, that's a good call.
You did.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, he it's interesting that, I wanted to ask him, like, yeah, doesn't being an adult suck? He's like, I'm at work. I couldn't get to the game. My schedule. It's like, yeah, man, adulting's really not fun.
No,
Like,
he's
stay
fine.
young.
He's chilling in Miami. He's young. He's good.
But she's older than we think, though, now, Jeff.
I know. That's.
I mean, geez. We just keep getting older.
Hey, Jeff, you did a little bit of football recruiting. How about some basketball recruiting?
Basketball recruiting is pretty slow. It's now, I've said it a million times now with all this focus on the portal. Kevin Willard said he's not going to take more than like 3 high school recruits a year. He's only taken 1, Christian Jeffrey. But Chance Mallory, the point guard who is committed to Virginia, is visiting in a couple weeks. And that's one to keep tabs on. They had a visit recently from a kid named Shane Pendergrass, a DC native playing at Hargrave Military, 6'7", face up 4. I think they're in pretty good shape there with him, but he's 2026, so still early on that. Working on some other 26s, but talking about juniors this time of year was always a little premature. Now, with so much focus on the portal, it feels like a lifetime away. So. It's pretty much just right now in this upcoming class, Chance Mallory, and then looking ahead to the portal.
So, Jeff, there's been a lot of discussion, on the IMS board there about the value of recruiting high school kids, whether it's football or basketball, right? And, The Athletic did that article on asking the Under Armour Confidential article about the Under Armour All-American football players, anonymous, about did they leave money on the table? That was one of the questions. And almost all the people that answered anonymously all said, yeah, because they had preferences for certain schools. They liked certain coaches. And they're all like, yeah, I left $100,000. I left, a sizable chunk. Recruiting still matters, right? Even high school kids.
Yeah. That's actually been one of the biggest surprises to me about NIL is how many times I've seen that. Because you would think kids, especially if, their families can use the money, they're going to go to the highest bidder for the most part, unless it's a really close, really narrow difference between that and the second offer. But it's not, a lot of guys, even Derek Queen, he could have gotten probably several $100,000 more if he'd gone somewhere else. But Maryland guy, connections to the program, wanted to stay home. So it does actually happen quite a bit more than anybody would expect. Now, I'm sure, it depends on the difference in the offers, obviously. I'm sure as that gets larger, I'm sure it happens less frequently. But yeah, recruiting does still matter a lot. Relationships still matter, but you still have to be able to pay out. And now, as we already knew it, but as was announced this week, Maryland's going to be spending $20 million next year on all of the different programs, different teams.
All right. Well, I think we covered recruiting. We talked about the basketball team. How about we go to Paul's favorite segment of the show? You got anything for us? Live non-rev report.
A live non-rev. It's a good thing. It's a good thing. Jeff got me early today, so I could at least prepare. I could have something. There's really only 3 sports. Not even. There's 2 sports that are kind of actively starting to do some stuff. Wrestling. On a 5-match losing streak, they finally snapped it against Lock Haven. They were in a 3-14 tournament, lost to the other teams except for Lock Haven. Otherwise, they'd been dropping matches left and right. And now the reward for them after winning finally is they get to start their Big Ten conference.
What's their winning percentage over the years in the Big Ten? It's got to be like 10, like 100.
I think it's like they beat Northwestern and they beat Rutgers. I think that's pretty much all wrestling can do. It's almost like women's volleyball, where every program is like a top 25 program. So they get to travel out to Michigan, number 10 Michigan, to start their Big Ten play. Gymnastics is still a week out from starting. What's going to be interesting about that is they welcome new Big Ten member UCLA. UCLA has got to come back east for their first conference match against the Terrapins. That'll be fun for gymnastics to now welcome.
And they have a great recruiting class coming in gymnastics.
Seems like they always do.
Sarah Johnson from Churchill High School is a 4-star pole vault. What's that thing? Pole vault.
You know what happens when Jeff picks up the non-revs?
It wasn't good to start, and it got worse. He was trying to do the report. It was
usually I can do it.
It was not believable right away, and then it just went downhill from there.
I think you meant to say that just the vault.
The vault. That's it.
Last thing, men's lacrosse started practice on Monday. Snow was coming through. They got moved inside. So preseason number 5, Maryland, their men's team starts. They play, they got a scrimmage against Duke in 2 weeks, and then they'll scrimmage Georgetown before their first game of the season at home against Richmond on February 1st. So it's pretty much all that's going on right now in the non-rev world.
Well, you forgot the women's team.
The women's team does not start practice. They're a couple weeks behind.
I meant women's basketball team, who are undefeated, top 10 in the country.
Well, so that's an interesting question. Do you consider the women's team a non-rev sport?
Yeah.
I mean, technically it is. But they are the best thing Maryland's got going, and it is a national, a sport people pay attention to on a high level. So you don't.
Yeah, like it's on TV.
Lacrosse, or not lacrosse, with the gymnastics of the world, but technically it's not making money.
You turn on any of the main sports channels throughout basketball season, and there's women's games every night. It seems like on TV. So it's like, do you really consider that a non-rev?
And tickets for that USC game were going for a lot of money, like just average seats, I think, going for $60, $70, $80. So you're not getting that for the same seats of the men's games right now. I don't think.
Well, Larry, we're not gonna ruin our hopeful surprise guest, but I did mention on one of the threads on Inside Maryland Sports that Larry and I are going to be doing a preseason lacrosse podcast, and like last year, we're going to have a player join us, and so we're kind of finalizing that. But I think people, if we can get the person we want, I think people will enjoy. I know Larry will enjoy
Mitchell Lloyd.
Besides Mitch Lloyd,
will be the guest, the 4th string Fogo.
Well, now he's the 3rd string Fogo.
Well, there you go. He's moving up in the world. That still means he'll never see the field, but okay. All right.
You caught a stray right there.
Yeah. Well, when I was hanging out with their family last year, and I said, well, let's just hope for injury to what's his name? God, I can't remember.
Luke Weirman.
Luke Weirman. And then he'll come in and he'll make the game-winning face-off and go down and score and win the game. He's going to be the hero. And they're like, no, we don't want that. They were like, no, we don't want an injury. I was like, I do. I want him to play.
Did you get a bumper from his stepmom?
From his mom.
Oh,
he actually did get one?
Yeah, he got a bumper from his mom.
I was trying to make it even more obscure with the sorry, Mom.
Hang on.
I wasn't trying to.
Hang on 1 second. Hang on.
This is Mitchell Lloyd's mom, and you're listening to IRS.
Oh my
Radio.
God, she said IRS too.
Hang on.
This is Mitchell Lloyd's mom, and you're listening to IMS Radio.
How hard is it to remember 3 letters?
Dude, how dare you test me, Jeff? Come on. Come at me, bro.
I was joking. That's amazing that you had that
bro.
One. Well, if said IRS Radio.
If we get the person we're hoping to get, Larry also has a bumper from that person's family that I'm sure he will play for this player. So that could be fun.
Oh, well, maybe I won't. Guess what? My freaking hard drive died. I cannot get into it, and it's very, very bad. Everything from IMS history is on that drive. Everything I've got. So I am very nervous. I'm going to like a Geek Squad, or I'm going to go to some techie guys and say, can you get into this? I'm very nervous right now. Not just that, I'm on IMS Radio, a lot of stuff for my music career, a lot of
they'll be able to get
family stuff. Like, it sucks. Anyway, maybe not. I may have lost everything, but I did not lose Mitchell Lloyd's mom. There we go. All right. Here we go. We're going to end the show with true or false. I'm going to make a statement about Maryland sports, and you will have to say true or false and expound upon it. We will start with Jeff. The football team 2026 recruiting class will be even better than the 2025 class.
So hard not knowing how next season's going to go, but I'll say yes, just because this last class, I think, has built a little momentum locally, kind of making it cool to go to Maryland again. And you got a 5-star already on board. God only knows what the chances, he'll end up signing with Maryland a year from now, but it's a heck of a start. And they've got a couple other good guys committed already. So I'll say yes, true.
Wheels, the basketball team's early success was all a facade based on beating up bad teams.
Sorry, my stupid cell phone's binging.
You got eBay deals going down over there?
True. No, just my idiot friends. True or false? A facade. No, I actually think that's false. I don't think it was a facade. I think they've just they just really hit a patch and don't know what to do. So I think false.
Okay, they're just stumbling at the moment. Jeff, the football team upgraded at QB this offseason.
Man, that's tough. This kid really hasn't played that much. I'll say false, just because we don't know anything about him. He did have a good start. He had one start. It was at Penn State, and he played pretty well considering his lack of experience and playing in front of 100,000 people at Beaver Stadium. But and Billy Edwards was up and down. That's a really good one.
If you look at the transfer ratings, Martin's rated higher in the transfer portal than Billy Edwards. So
he's about 10 spots higher or something like that. Yeah. All right. Well, we'll go true. The rankings never lie. They're never wrong.
I talked you into it. Wheels, Maryland will make the college football playoff at least once in your lifetime.
In my lifetime?
Yep.
Oh, man. My family's got a history of men dropping dead pretty young. So,
Damn, it just got super morbid. Really
so in my lifetime, they'll make the college football playoffs because we don't know if it'll expand. There's already pressure to expand out to 14, maybe heading to 16. I'm going to be an optimist. And I'm going to say true. They will. In my lifetime, I will see it.
Correct. Paul would have said Paul.
I always wanted to see
That's why
Maryland.
you were the better host than Paul.
I always wanted to see Maryland play in the Rose Bowl, and I get to see it next year.
Sort of. Okay.
It's in the Rose Bowl.
It is in the stadium. Yes. All right. Jeff, the basketball team will make the tournament this year. I hate that that's actually a legit thing to put on there.
Yeah. True. I think true. Probably 80% chance right now, I would say, just off the top of my head. But, I said it the past 6 weeks or so, or especially in the past month when they started to build up some hype, that they look really good, but they haven't really beaten anybody yet. So I'm waiting till the Big Ten, schedule to really buy in. And it hasn't started that well. So they got to prove that they can, that they're as good as they looked against all this lesser competition. I think they're still very likely to make the tournament, but we don't really know exactly, exactly who they are, because they, in all of the games against top teams, except for, Ohio State, who's like 30 or whatever it is in Ken Palm, they've lost close games. So they need to prove they can win close games, and they need to prove that they can win on the road. Yeah.
One close win against Villanova. Okay.
And I think they just jumped to quad one. That just became a quad one win last week. So
that's going to end up being a very good win. Wheels, the lacrosse team will win the tournament.
I'm always going to say true to that.
All right.
Book your Final Four tickets at a minimum. They're going to be good this year.
Okay.
You're trying to butter up Tillman. I see you.
It's in Boston. It's in Foxborough this year. So Final Four up in Foxborough, and
although I do like Boston a lot, it's fun. I went up there.
Although Foxborough is actually closer to Providence than it is to Boston, but it's kind of
it's Foxborough. Oh yeah,
it's kind of in the middle of nowhere. But
yeah.
But yeah, they're going to win it all.
If it was Boston City, I would go. Probably.
January, February, March, April, Tillman. So always bet on Tillman in May.
All right, Jeff. The women's team is more popular than the men's team right now. Basketball.
No, that'll just never be the case. That's nothing against them, but analytically speaking, there's just a lot more men's basketball fans. But I will say that it's definitely shifting. Some of the interest is definitely shifting because they're really good on a yearly basis. Brenda's got it going. It was amazing. I looked, I didn't realize last year is the first time she's lost in the first round of the tournament at Maryland at all in like 20 years, which is amazing. And most of those years it's a Sweet 16 or an Elite 8. So and long story short, and we like to cover them. It's just, they do have a good fan base, but it's just, it doesn't have the same amount of appeal, but it is growing. And like I said, those tickets were going for a lot of money for the USC game. So clearly it's, it's not like your typical quote non-revenue program.
All right. Last one, Wheels. The lacrosse tailgate is better than the football tailgate.
Boy, I might upset some people, right? The lacrosse tailgates are just so much fun. They're so much more, they're smaller, but they're much more welcoming, I think, right?
I was told that size doesn't matter.
Larry, that's just what they tell you.
Okay.
They're a lot more fun, I think, because it's more of one tailgate as opposed to hundreds of tailgates happening.
And they're mostly rich people and have good booze, I'm sure. That probably helps, right?
I'll say this. When you go, every time you turn around, people are trying to hand you drinks and food. It's a different kind of if
more
communal.
People,
yes. At the football, people you walk up to. If you know them, then they kind of do that. At the lacrosse, it's just completely everybody is just giving out, sharing. So anyway. All right. Oh, Dave, what did he say here? He had a comment for you, Tony. He said, see you at the Rose Bowl. If it's still there. Oh, if it's still there after the fires. Yeah, that's crazy.
Yep.
Oh, my God.
They got 10 months to figure that out. We'll be out there. October 18th out in Westwood. So we'll be out there, man. We're going to stay in West Hollywood. We're going to have some fun. Head out to Pasadena for the game. We already got our plans.
We need these teams to start winning more so we can do some more road live shows.
Yeah.
I've mentioned to you guys, but I've noticed this as the years have gone by, it's been people have been a little more lukewarm on those just because of the apathy. So maybe next year, if they get off to a hot start, we can have a West Coast live show.
All right.
Count me in.
That'll be fun.
They'll be out at the Coliseum in 26, and then they're out at UW in 27. Set it up.
There we go.
Seattle's cool. I'm up for that.
Amazing.
All right. Well, the first time back in a while because of the holidays. A very fun, sort of quirky guest was Shawn Petty there. The guy who was the linebacker who played QB. So that was fun. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. If you have not clicked like, please do that. Or subscribe if you haven't done that. And if you're just listening, please go to YouTube and do that for us. And I think we'll be back on a regular schedule, probably back next Wednesday. Thank you guys very much. This is IMS Radio.